down on the record. A report alleging State Representative Harry Benton sexually harassed a co-worker has the Illinois House Speaker under fire. He's received criticism for how he handled the report and for giving Benton $1.4 million for his re-election bid after learning of these allegations. We have Republican State Representative Travis Weaver to explain how the other party feels about this. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Cameron.
So the report came out and, you know, there was a lot of push and we've been waiting months for this report to come out. What are your thoughts on it?
Really feels like too little, too late. You know, the initial report was that the first complaint was filed in 2023. Representative Benton and I actually came in together, started January 2023. So right from the very beginning, there were flags that were going up. Speaker Welch actually said that he got that first complaint, but then softened it by saying, well, I get complaints about a lot of my members, so I just didn't take this one very seriously, which is worth pausing on and saying, so what else are your members doing that we're not taking seriously? Because now here he's sexually harassed multiple employees, multiple lobbyists, and really it's becoming too little, too late for the Speaker.
And I think as well, you know, why is the Speaker receiving so much criticism? Because at the end of the day, this is another state representative. Why is the Speaker being lopped into this?
You know, there's the folks on the outside that might see this and say there were allegations and harassment, but from everybody on the inside, 118 General Assembly members, there was no shock and awe when we found this out. It's something that we had kind of suspected was going on. He would say offhanded remarks that were inappropriate regularly. So it's the type of person who, when you get the complaint, the harassment gets filed, it's not something where you say, you know, this guy is, you know, a church-going man, and I know him to be differently with Representative Benton. It was obvious.
Right, so there was enough in your own personal experience and everybody else to go, this is probably something that you guys believe in.
That's
on
right.
The get-go.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that multiple staffers brought forward their complaints, and it wasn't actually until a lobbyist filed a complaint that Speaker Welch ended up taking it seriously, which I think just speaks volume to his motives, because he also said to his own members that he didn't take it seriously initially because he didn't want to upset the labor unions, which Representative Benton is a part of.
Right, so it's a lot of, you know, there was this original complaint that happened a couple of years ago,
yeah,
and then they didn't enact on it, and it seems like other women have been hurt because of that.
That's exactly right, and that all came out in the investigative report that the Inspector General did. There's several founded instances, multiple women. And there's 6 things that he said that I won't get into. I know that families listen to your show, but if anybody wants to go online, it's public record of what the Inspector General came up with, and it's easy to find.
So what do you recommend the House Speaker to do from now forward?
I think it's time for a new House Speaker, and I recommend that we consider some new options, right? The Democrats have had it for the last 3 decades. The previous House Speaker is behind bars. The current House Speaker ought to resign in disgrace for his handling of this. And so maybe it's time that we look across party aisles for that person.
And that's going to be a lot of Democrats will need to get behind that, because Democrats have a supermajority. Have you had conversation with Democrats with, you know, maybe asking the Speaker to step down?
Yeah, I actually just spoke with a good colleague of mine who's on the other side of the aisle earlier this week. They're really concerned about the way that this was handled. And he's not even a member of the Women's Caucus, where most of the frustration is coming from. Representative Cassidy up in north part of Chicago has been extremely vocal about it. Actually, women represent 56 of the 78 members on the other side of the aisle. So you can imagine their frustration in hearing how poorly this was handled is just multiplied.
And I think a lot of this news, it ends up throwing a lot of people into state politics that don't really follow it, because, you know, a lot of eyes are on the federal government. Does this situation, why should people care about this? Why should people care about the state politics happening right now?
Well, it's especially important right now because Representative Benton's not the only one that's had a scandal this summer. Earlier in the summer, Representative Carol Ammons over in Champaign County got federally indicted on wire fraud for defrauding the taxpayers of Illinois. So we've really got to focus on this because our state government is managed really poorly. It starts in the Speaker's office, and it happens with the way that our taxes are spent and the way the agencies are ran, but it also happens with the way that he manages his members. And here we are, 2 in 1 summer, 1 federal indictment and 1 resignation.